You can never stop learning. And I think that's a really healthy philosophy to have in life. Always be curious and never judgmental, and be open to the impulses that you are getting. And I think that being a successful trader means coming to terms with who you are as a person and what you are prepared to put in.
I know when I first started trading, it was a taboo subject. Oh, you're a trader. Yeah, okay. You probably have a gambling problem or something. It's weird, you know?
It takes a very brave person and an honest person to acknowledge when something isn't working, especially if it means that you are affecting those people around you, even those people that you perhaps care deeply about. When we come to 2050, and hopefully I'll still be alive to witness it, we won't recognize the trading industry as it is today.
What's up, guys? This is David, aka Reverse Long, and today I got Tom Hougaard back on the podcast again, and we have a few things to discuss over here. So, Tom is, it's fresh off of well, not fresh, it's been a few months already off of the event we did in Los Angeles in October, and it was an amazing event. We came here to the City Club, the 51st floor in LA, the building across the street where I have I frequent, and we did a big event over there. Traders from around the world came through. LA traders came through. Everybody came through. The whole Friendly Bear community came through. It was great. So it went so well. We decided to do another one. We're gonna do another one in Buenos Aires, Argentina, on March 23rd, and everyone's welcome to come to that. And with that, we wanted to do a podcast to discuss a few things and a couple takeaways from the conference first, and and see how things are going with trading with Tom and with me and everything, and yeah, and discuss some activities, some events that are going to happen in Argentina. So with that, Tom, how's it going? How's everything?
You know, that Los Angeles event was a really big deal for me. Um, I like to nerd around with the charts and be engrossed in the process of making money trading. But from time to time, it's really nice to get out of the house, just leave everything behind and maybe trade from a laptop. And going to Los Angeles, the last time I'd been there was actually with my mom before she died. And we flew into uh, San Francisco, and then we rented a Mustang Cabriolet. I don't know why, but I think it was like a childhood dream of mine. And then we drove down the Pacific Coast Highway into Los Angeles. But unfortunately, when we got to Los Angeles, we didn't really have any opportunity to see the city itself. And so that was always a kind of a regret for me. And so when you came up with the idea that we could do something together in Los Angeles, I just jumped at it. I just jumped at it. And of course, what you don't know was that I spent the days that we didn't do the conference just walking around the streets of Los Angeles, probably also walking some places that I perhaps shouldn't have walked, but yeah, ignorance was on my side. I went down to 7th Street, 7th and Main, where my childhood, uh, I idolized the Irish rock band U2, and they shot a video down there on 7th and Main on top of a one-story apartment, yeah, an apartment block. And so I went down there and I saw where they shot it. And that was I saw those videos, when MTV emerged, and I was 18, like 18, 19 years old. And I thought, wow, Los Angeles. And they were shooting on the top of a one-story building. I'll never get to see that. And so as I walked down there, I was transported like 30 years back in time. So I was really grateful for the event. And I thought, with these events, they're always fuel because you can never stop learning. And I think that's a really healthy philosophy to have in life. Always be curious and never judgmental, and be open to the impulses that you are getting. And so when I think there was about 130, 150 people at your event, those questions, I spoke for an hour and a half and then I answered questions for about 5 hours afterwards, which was fine, because it's lovely to hear people's stories. But I also found that there are many times when people ask me questions that I don't perhaps initially know how to answer. For example, if someone says to you, well, I can't get out of bed in the morning until 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. For someone who gets up around 4:30 and just gets up and gets on with it and don't try to overthink it, almost like you just know that there are certain behaviors in your life that leads to an outcome that is desirable. I I don't need much motivation because I know from my hard-earned experience that if I am able to create an environment that supports my habits and my behaviors towards a chosen outcome, I see the results that I want. I see the results in my life in general, but in this context, in trading. And so then when someone comes to you and says, how do you get up so early, or how do you motivate yourself? For me, it's very difficult to answer because you don't really need any prompting. You just do it because I suppose that A, you enjoy it, B, you feel like it's your edge, C, it's your livelihood. I don't know if I've told you this, but I think I have, that coming to Los Angeles was special for more than one occasion, meeting you and seeing the great city itself. But I was I've been a long time fan of Kobe Bryant. Not that I know, and I just apologize right off the bat here. I know nothing about basketball. I had to ask somebody what the thing that they were trying to shoot the ball into was called. So, is it called the hoop or something
The
like
hoop.
that?
It's called the hoop,
There,
man.
there you go. Jesus, I am sorry. But anyway, I I went to an LA Lakers game to
Wow.
yeah, I did. And again, just to show my naivety, I thought that it was a really good idea to have a seat right down at the floor, at floor level. And
Yeah.
so I did, and I'm like, I can't see anything. I wish I had been further up so I could see better. But I bring this story up about Kobe Bryant because I think it was a part of Kobe Bryant's identity to outwork his teammates and also the competing teams. I think it became a part of his persona to be the one that trained 3 times a day. And I think that being a successful trader means coming to terms with who you are as a person and what you are prepared to put in. And I argue that if you put in a mediocre effort in trading, you're probably not going to make much of it. But if you become passionate about it and it almost becomes a part of your identity, which I hesitate to guide because it hasn't always worked in my favor to have been so passionate about trading. And we're talking about relationships and marriage and divorce and children. It can be difficult for the people around you to accept that there's this thing that means so much to the one they love that perhaps they're not always first priority. And I think that was perhaps also something that Kobe Bryant had to manage with his children and his wife. When you read what he went through in his personal life, that it wasn't all plain sailing. And I suspect that being that driven character that he was, and I know that I am, it does also come with a flip side. There's always a price to be paid for success. always. And I think with maturity and perhaps also introspection and perhaps above all communication with those around you, it becomes infinitely easier. And that's a really important aspect because you're much younger than I am, and you have yet to establish a a nucleus, a family and children that I know of about you. And so you will probably also come to a realization at some point. And I think many of our listeners and viewers will have that in their own life, that perhaps feeling a little torn between, I really want to be with my partner, but I also really want to make it in trading. And I found in my relationships that if I openly communicated about this is what I want, but I'm also prepared to compromise, I was so much more in the flow immediately rather than sitting in the office perhaps at 11 o'clock at night, churning charts. And you're sat there with a somewhat of a bad conscience because you feel maybe I should also pay attention to the ones that are also important to me in my life. Jesus, that was a long first answer. I'm so sorry about that. I suppose
No,
there was something that I cathartically needed to get off my chest as well, because it's never it's never so plain sailing as people perhaps make it out to be. Many people just think if I become a chart expert, I can make as much money as a printing machine can. Yeah, sort of. But there's a whole lot more to life than just being a mean chart reading machine. There's also having the balance in life, because if you don't have the balance in life, you will probably tend to burn out sooner than you think, because it's quite draining to trade your own money, especially when you begin to trade big size. But also, if you do decide to not be a hermit for the rest of your life, you do actually have to open up and let people into your life. And that was something that I personally found very difficult, David, because my my life depended on it, in the sense that I didn't want to go and work for anybody else once I had left corporate life. And as just to recap, I left corporate life in 2009. Or should we say, I was helped by the financial crisis, and I was made redundant with a very generous severance fee. And I knew immediately that I could go in and get another job somewhere else really quickly, within days. But I just paused for a second and I asked myself, have you been fulfilled in the last few years of working there? And the answer was just no, I had not. I had grown stale. I had been bored. I had looked at the clock. I had not been the person who had been perhaps 7 years earlier. So the last 18 months of my career there, I didn't I didn't thrive. And dare I say, it takes a very brave person and an honest person to acknowledge when something isn't working, especially if it means that you are affecting those people around you, even those people that you perhaps care deeply about. So
yeah,
I
no.
suppose I'm getting a lot more. Um, you know, a typical webcast would be about, right, what pattern are you using? Are you using wedges, Fibonacci, or moving averages, and all of these things? And I just think that there's so many of those podcasts in the first place. And I could fill the next 200 podcasts. We can even talk about it today with technical prowess, expertise, things that I have discovered that I use in my day-to-day trading. But I find the more that um, the more active I become in the other side of trading, which is, shall we say, that part that is the unseen part, the part that actually makes someone a really successful trader. The more that I become engaged with this, even developing on top of my book, Best Loser Wins, now that I'm writing the second book, I realize that a human being is an incredibly complex machine. And it is not easy to always understand what motivates us and what triggers us. But that's a vital part to understand to be a good trader.
Excellent, Tom. There's so many things there. Oh man, so many things. I can't wait for that second book, by the way. This is we're all waiting for it. We can't
Yeah,
wait,
well,
you know?
David, the first one took 10 years, so please don't hold your
Okay.
breath, okay?
Okay. Gotcha. So I wanted to, okay, so when you were mentioning there about motivation and all this stuff that people are, they're all over the place with, then you mentioned Kobe Bryant with the Mamba, Kobe came up with this like version of himself that's the Mamba, the Black Mamba. And then like whenever he tapped into that mode, he that was his identity. So that's one way to get the thing done. It's like you have this identity like for me early on, I had this identity I created for myself, like this vigilante. I'm gonna expose stock market scams, and it drove me to become like an autodidact to figure it out and stay up late at night and study and go into this mad scientist mode. It was like the Black Mamba version, but for myself was for short selling and finding stocks that are bad companies to expose, and it drove me to get through that hump, that hurdle of learning everything and waking up early in the morning. It gave me a purpose to wake up in the morning and figure it out. So it's like that's one way to do it is to create this identity of yourself that like the Black Mamba. And then that drives you to wake up in the morning and gives you fuel early on. And also if you see yourself as a successful trader and in your mind, I want to see your thoughts on this, then you're gonna more likely to obey all the rules and things that you come up with through all the work you do outside of the market hours to follow your plan, to follow your discipline, because you see yourself in the future as a successful trader, as that's your identity. Kind of like so I ran into, it's funny, I'm definitely not a vegetarian. That's why we're going to Argentina. We're going to eat a lot of steaks over there, Tom. The best steaks. But a vegetarian rose his hand in one conference I went to a long time ago. And he said, the topic was about discipline. And he rose his hand and stood up. I'll never forget. And he said, it's just like me. I'm a vegetarian. And if you put a steak in front of me, I'm not going to eat it because this is my identity. I'm a vegetarian. And it doesn't matter how good the steak is, I'm not going to eat it. So it's kind of like that. So the vegetarian, he's like, if I take a vegetarian, fly him into Buenos Aires and put the steak that Messi and Ronaldo, all these football players eat, he's not going to eat it because even if he flew, it doesn't matter how much money you give this guy because he's a vegetarian. So it's like when it's your identity, I think that's one of the strongest things to get you to follow your path. Kobe Bryant was one. He created that Black Mamba to tap into because like it was his identity to do three practices a day when they did one practice. Now, it's like you can make the argument he took it to an extreme, you know, and it sacrifices a lot of things in his life outside of, his personal life. But eventually, I mean, he seemed pretty happy towards the end of his life, unfortunately. Rest in peace, Kobe. But
Yeah.
he got an Oscar, I think. He got an award, a film award. His daughter was like you look at all the photos with him and his family. They're all smiling. It seemed like a model family. So eventually, I think he found that balance and that peace. But maybe he was going through something similar to what you're saying. Like, he realized all that he sacrificed leading up to for all his success. So I don't know. It's a really good discussion, and I'm glad that you got to speak about it just now. It's something that a lot of people can resonate with.
Do your listeners know the extent and the extremes you went to uncover bad companies?
Uh,
I'm not sure they do. Eh, Would you do me a favor? Would you humor me? Do you want to tell that story about the time that you flew to a third world country and rented a motorbike?
uh,
I mean, is it a? You told me the story. I don't know if it's something you're going to edit out, but when I heard that story, it it told me a lot about who you were as a person, and I really admired that because it was the craziest thing I think I've ever heard in the context of analysis of a stock.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you a story. So,
Yes, please tell the story.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna lean back, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm gonna get the popcorn. Now be prepared. This is one that Tom Cruise could have featured in.
Absolutely. I was thinking, so it's chapter 5 in my upcoming book. I was thinking of turning it into a screenplay or something, and
And you should.
it's, but yeah. So you know, early on, I had some initial success. It was just like, I made my first six figures, let's say. First is like life changing. You make your first six figures like super life changing. After so many years of struggle, So after 3, 4 years of struggle, break even, slightly red, slightly green, I finally have a breakthrough. And I moved to Puerto Rico. There's a lot of traders in Puerto Rico, successful traders. It's a tax haven. They have a lot of tax incentives for traders, so it attracts them. And kind of similar to Dubai for Americans. So I go there. I meet a lot of traders there, successful traders, and I network with them. And I find these short reports, uh, outlets that are there, some people that are part of it. And this is what I was like learning and researching on my own for 3 or 4 years. I used to just dive deep into all these research reports of short selling. Anyway, I have this huge chip on my shoulder because like I'm in more student debt than my profits. So my profits are I'm still digging myself out of a hole. So and I feel like I was like I did everything right in my life, like 10 years. I went to school, architecture, all this stuff. And I felt like, man, it was just like I was misled. Now, like I was just going to work for a slave job the rest of my life. While these people in the stock market, especially these scam companies, they get filthy rich. So I was like, I did everything right. And I got in a bad position and they're doing scams and getting super rich. So I was like, not on my watch. So I was like, I'm gonna go down there and expose these guys. I don't care what it takes. And I was waiting for that opportunity to do it. Then finally, this opportunity showed up. It was an extreme one. I didn't think I would. I always thought it would be if I were to show up in someone's door, it would be in a regular country or something. A regular situation. So this one showed up. It was a marijuana company out of Colombia, Bucaramanga, Colombia. It's a city in the middle of nowhere in Colombia, in the mountains. And because people know Medellin, they know Bogota, but Bucaramanga is an obscure place in the mountains. So I tell my friend, hey, this is a pump and dump company. I found some promotions that they were a part of, all the sketchy stuff. The underwriter was sketchy. Everything was sketchy about it. And I find all this dirt. And I spent a Friday and a Saturday all night in the office. And then on Sunday, no, no, yeah, no, on Saturday night, I presented it finally, the where the location was to my friend, Adam, which you met at the conference. And Adam, I was like, Adam, okay, I found the location because I had been pitching this thing for a few days leading up to that Saturday. Then I found the location through an Instagram post and a Google Maps, and because they don't want you to know their address. So I found a body of water in an Instagram post that they had their signage, and then I found the only body of water in the Google Maps. And I was like, aha, I found the location. I found it. I'm going there. And I told Adam, I was like, all right, Adam, look, I found it. I'm willing to go there. I'm going to fly in. He's like, wow, you're really going to do it? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. You want to come with me? He's like, no, no, I'm not going to go with you. But, and then I asked another guy in the office, another Adam, Adam Jarrett, which he was supposed to come to our conference, but he had something else to do. He was opening up a new business. But anyway, I told Adam Jarrett, hey, you want to come with? And he's like, no, no, man, I'm good. You could go. And I was like, I'm going. And I outweighed the risk reward. I was like, okay, um, you know, this might be I could, I don't know what's going to happen there. They so both Adams told me, you could die down there, this is dangerous. And I didn't even see that. I was like, okay, I just was thinking about if this is a success, I gain credibility, uh you know I can have, oh, by the way, my YouTube channel just started at that time. I had the videos up at that moment. I was like, okay, this could be content for my channel, Friendly Bear Podcast, the first time it goes live on YouTube. Um, and then I can make a name for myself and I can make some money from this. And yeah, so um, and then I knew it was going to be, if it's a success, which most likely it would be, unless I die, then I could even write a book about it. This, look, it's a chapter in my book, and I'm explaining high level fundamental concepts with this, like lockup expirations and stuff, because the company was pumping their stock into a lockup expiration so the insiders can dump. And the insiders, one of them was a guy connected to Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street back in the day. So this is a totally sketch company. Anyway, I on Saturday night I okayed it with Adam. Adam drove me to the airport. Uh, he wished me luck. And Puerto Rican airport. I go to Panama, layover, then Bucaramanga, and I land in the Bucaramanga airport. So the city's known for parasailing all the way in the mountains. And so I stayed at a hostel. I booked a hostel, and the hostel owner picked me up that night. It must have been like 1 in the morning. He picked me up in a motorbike in the back. I was riding the motorbike with my laptop in there. I had my whole bag, like with the laptop, cameras, everything. And he's swerving on down the mountains. I stay at the hostel, and the hostel was strategic because like I can ask people there these kind of questions, and I can act like I'm a tourist or something. So like a like a low level tourist, so I'm not like a short seller or whatever. So I came in the guise of an investor. So I was like, I'm looking to like, they didn't know that, but I told the hostel owner, I was like, hey, I want to check out this site, can you take me there in the morning? He's like, you want to go there, like, why don't you, let's go parasailing. I was like, nah, I don't want to go parasailing. Next time I'll go to the I need to go to this site. And he's like, okay. So he didn't even know what I was going there for. I didn't explain to him anything. I told him, if you can just take me there. And so we both rented motorbikes in the morning. It was a 3 hour journey, and we had to like maneuver here and there. And yeah, it was rough. And there were no roads. It was mud. So mud trails. There's no roads. So when I came back, eventually Adam told me, wow, that's the checkmate, we got him. Because the longs that are defending this stock, because there's a lot of longs that unfortunately they get misled to buy the shares, they think this is the future or whatever. They have to come to terms that there's no infrastructure. So the company was saying they're gonna ship marijuana for 6 cents a gram all over the world and revolutionize marijuana in the industry. And without, how are they gonna bring the marijuana down from a 3 hour journey down up the mountain? So like it didn't make any sense. So it's like they need helicopters to take down even if they had marijuana, which they didn't have marijuana. So, anyways, I continue 3 hours up the mountain, documenting everything. Um, at the gates, one exec that I had done the homework on, his name was Javier Franco. He showed up. So when he showed up, I was like, wow, this is the guy I was researching. He makes a $50,000 salary. He's a nobody, He's like he's just a pawn for the cultivation, the marijuana company. So, anyways, he comes to me. I had arranged a tour beforehand, and because I was making phone calls, and the office, supposed office in Canada, supposed office in Miami, and I coordinated a tour, and then they denied me a tour, which that was documented through a pen camera. I had a pen camera right here. And then we got in a scuffle. And then like some security, like some skinny tattooed security, they look like cartel. I don't think this was any security. And they had guns and stuff. And there was one heated moment where they were all looking at each other when the Javier Franco said, "What is that?" He said in Spanish, like, "¿Qué es eso? Es un huequito." And then which means there's a hole in this pen. There's a hole, like, that's not a pen. And then they looked at each other, and I could, like, at that moment I was like, okay, I got to get the hell out of here, and I'm probably a goner, so I just jumped on the bike and left. But if I didn't jump on the bike, and I reflect on this in the book, if I didn't jump on that bike in that moment, I think they would have grabbed me, because like that was their moment of justification. Like, I was there and I was causing a scene, because I wasn't just gonna, they were telling me to go away, but I was like, I'm not gonna just go away. Like, I flew in here, I traveled 3 hours up the mountain. I gotta go for a tour. So it was all recorded. I was like, I'm not gonna just go, So when I told them that, I was just straight up with them. I was like, I'm not gonna like. I just drove 3 hours up the mountain on a dirt bike. I can't just go away. And I flew over here. I told them I'm an investor de Miami. I'm an investor from Miami. I went all this journey. I'm just gonna turn around. So then it was heated, and at that moment, there was one moment when they pointed out the pen camera. I was like, uh-oh, now this is gonna get bad. I just jumped on the bike and left. But if I would have just pushed the envelope a little more, I think they would have grabbed me. There was a shed in the back. I saw the shed. They would have threw me in the shed, and there's no Wi-Fi there. Nobody knows where I'm at. I think I would have just that's it. It's a Colombian cartel. So I made it down from the mountain, a 3 hour journey back down. Um, the whole time it was the most torturous ride because the whole time I'm like, those thoughts were going through my head of like, if they get me here, like I'm gone. Like this is really the middle of nowhere. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I made it back. It was a successful report. We had all the footage. Uh, we checkmated the pumpers. There was pumpers involved. There was one pumper guy. He was saying that he went there with the uh how you say a motorcade of Hummers. He had photos of Hummers, and he's like, guys, we just went with a motorcade of Hummers, and we found the most glorious marijuana cultivation facility in the world. So that was shut down because they don't even have roads. So I was by going to the site, you can call BS on a lot of things. So it was good. It's just dangerous. But in life, I think it's risk reward, and a lot of good has come out from that one trip. It kind of like I was taking a, I was like low on the totem pole in the office, as Adam would say. Uh, and then after that, I gained a lot of respect from my colleagues, and now a lot of my friends. Because like when you're moving up, it's like, who is this guy? And then like now they know who I am, they know what I'm about. They saw my work ethic, they see how like the drive that I have. So so I found that even some people, because in a trading office, there's a lot of politics, office politics. Even the people that didn't like me, not everyone's got to like you. They respected that, and they respected my work ethic. They respected my drive, and now we even started to develop a business relationship. So it really helped. And in life, it's all about risk reward. So that risk was my life. I would never do that again, but it was good for that moment in my life.
What was then the outcome? Or what happened to the stock once you published your findings?
Yes. Okay. So with stocks, there's with a lot of these companies, there's a 180-day lockup period. So
Yeah.
that stock. Now, the worst companies, they pump up into the 180 days because they're manipulating it. And then the insiders, they're greedy and they dump it. And in this case, it's like the moment it unlocked, which was it was a race for me to get there because I knew that lockup period was ending any second. It was within this like 2 or 3 day range. I was like, the lockup expiration is one of these 3 days. And they didn't make it really clear in the report because there's weekends and holidays. So you can't just count 180 days. So I narrowed it down to this like 3 day period. And it was a race for me to get there because like a lot of times the worst companies just dump right after that lockup period. They don't even wait a second. They just dump it. And I was there exactly during that period because when I was when I was confronting the Javier Franco and the cartel, um, that was the all-time high. That day specifically was the all-time high. Um, in fact, my phone didn't have Wi-Fi, but when I got back to the hostel, uh both Adams were saying, wow, did you see it? All-time high is $25. I'll never forget. All time I was like, wow. So the whole time I was there, the stock was doing a blow off. It was and I had no idea because I had no Wi-Fi. So I was heading into like the lion's den because they were pumping this thing as hard as they can for that last pump before the how do you say, the capitulation, the dump. So
Yeah.
immediately after that lockup period, and then I think when the exec Javier Franco saw that hole on the pen, and he's like that, he was telling me, I see your camera. You're not an investor. That's what he was telling me. Um, without telling me. I picked it up. I was like, okay, this guy, they know they're on to me. I'm out of here. Um, when they saw that, who knows? You know, it's like, who knows? But like, it probably encouraged them to dump whatever leftover they had because that stock just crashed after that. It went from $25, yeah, within like a month, it was like a couple dollars. And then that was 2021. And ever since then, they just been destroying it. It's still on the market, but they shifted from marijuana to like CBD and some other thing. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it was
Well, a
a wild one.
crazy story. You know, you remind me of these two investigative reporters from the Washington Post. Was a Woodward and Bernstein. You know, the ones that uncovered the Watergate scandal. You know, in
Yeah.
the 19 yeah in 1970 whatever it was, 71, 72. Yeah, you're a Woodward or Bernstein, David.
Oh, Watergate
Anyway,
was a crazy one. Yeah.
yeah, it was.
So
Well, anyway, well done.
so Tom, now how about you? So how's trading going and all that?
Okay, so uh, I was wondering if I could show you something. Uh, could I share my screen?
Yes, absolutely. You're free to
It,
share. I have the
uh,
settings over here. You're good.
all right, let's have a see. Just a fair warning, I'm not technically. Uh, okay, so you should be able to
There we
see
go.
this.
Yeah, we see
Yeah.
it.
Okay, fine. Um, so to answer your question, how is trading going? The answer is better than ever. Now,
It's great to hear.
yeah, no. So I'm trying to formulate the next thing while retaining objectivity and without sounding too enthusiastic. Uh, we are living in a a technological revolution without a doubt, and the frontiers are being pushed practically every single day. Um, there's a little story to this. A while ago, I was out for a Sunday walk with a friend of mine, a trader, and he was telling me about the research that I have done. He said, "What you're doing is absolutely fantastic, but what takes you perhaps a week, I can now do in 5 minutes." And I said, "Prove it." And so he showed me what he had done, and I was blown away. And I'd really like to share that with you because I think this is something that I want to share on my Telegram channel. And it is also something I want to talk about in Buenos Aires when we're there. So it is obviously work in progress. So just be mindful of that. But if I click on the DAX as the instrument I want to do situational analysis on, and I use a 15-minute chart as you're seeing here. And I'm interested in the what we call the school run, which is when I buy above the high of the second 15-minute bar in the morning in the DAX index. So I click on that. And let's just say that I only want to investigate uh, Tuesdays. And I want to investigate Tuesdays when the market gaps down. And I wanted to gap down below the previous day's low. And I don't know if you can see this, but the overall database is approximately 4 years or 1,000 trading days. I have now narrowed that down to out of those 1,000 trading days, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. There's 30. There's 31 days out of the 1,000 where the DAX on the 15-minute chart on a Tuesday gaps down below the previous day's low. But now I want to know what happens when the first 15-minute bar is positive and the second 15-minute bar is positive. So do you see what I've just done there? I
Yes,
have
I see.
just I, I have just researched 1,000 trading days. I want to know, and why is that important? Well, imagine that I'm sitting trading on a Tuesday, and I know it's a gap down, and I know that it's a gap down below previous day's low. But the first bar is positive, and the second bar is positive. What I very quickly want to find out is, does it make sense for me to buy above the high of the second 15-minute bar? And you can see that out of the 1,000 days, there's only about seven, 7 days where so that's 7 out of 1,000. So that should probably give me some insight into how the market has behaved in the past under similar circumstances. And you can see here, definitely makes sense to be a buyer above the second bar. It definitely makes sense to be a buyer above the second bar. Definitely makes sense to be a buyer above the second bar. And can I just, for the record, say here, I just picked some arbitrary numbers. Tuesday, it could have been Friday, but just so you know. And so, okay, so there's an example here where it would not have been a good idea to be a buyer above the previous day's high. But then you then get an example, and that's fine. You're not looking for the holy grail that never fails. What you're looking for is, well, how do I need to play it in case I'm wrong? Okay, so again, you're seeing here your buyer above the second 50-minute bar. Great, you're happy for 10 minutes. And then you begin to say, okay, fine, we're going lower. If I was in a similar circumstance, what would I do? Where would my stop loss be? How would I flip the switch? And so you very, very quickly can generate an oversight of how the market has evolved over the last 4 years, which is sort of probably enough. You could go back 10 years, but I also think that after the pandemic, the dynamics of the market changed. There was perhaps more participation, greater volatility than had been before. And I found that this tool, which I will give full credit to my friend Alex for dreaming up, it 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 cut my workload. What I could perhaps produce in a year, I can now produce in less than 2 weeks. And that, for me, has really revolutionized my profitability. I get a hell of a much more data insight very, very quickly. In the past, I have created PowerPoint presentations. I'm quite famous for a YouTube video where it's a live presentation out of London. And I was co-speaking with a trading psychology coach called Steve Ward. So he was speaking for an hour, and I was speaking for 2 hours. His presentation was 7 slides, and my slide was 1,148 slides.
Wow.
Yeah, not that I went through all 1,100, but that was just the evidence material that I brought, and that was done manually. And I spent months preparing that presentation for London IX show. If I had the same assignment today, I could have done it in, I don't know, half an afternoon. That's that's so it's frightening, but it is tantalizingly delicious for someone who is as data orientated as I am. So
Wow.
I just wanted to. So you asked me how's trading, and you sort of get, yeah, up and down. But no, it's not up and down. It's like, wow, I didn't even I wasn't even able to dream that this could ever be a reality. I thought this was something that big institutions had at their disposal. Now I have it at my disposal. And that is something to be truly excited about. And so now, of course, it becomes, all right, I want to investigate FTSE. I want to investigate the Dow, the S&P. And so I'm probably looking a little tired to your audience, and there's a reason for that, because I am certainly burning the candle both ends right now to explore what is possible. So I'm really quite excited. So I'm probably as excited as you were when you're driving up in the mountains uh, in Bolivia or wherever it was, Costa Rica,
Bucaramanga,
Hougaard.
yeah.
That pioneering spirit, that excitement when you feel that you are in virgin territory,
Yeah,
that you are literally at the frontier, and you are almost you're drawing the map. Sorry, you're drawing the map for what future technical analysis is going to look like. That's
yeah.
exciting. And so, if you want to know what I want to talk about in Argentina and Buenos Aires, well, obviously, I want to talk about the things that I like to talk about. Is what strategies do I like to use, and why do I use them, and why are they as good as they are, and perhaps more importantly, how do they fit into my mindset and how I think and how I act. But I certainly also want to uh, show and can I just say here that that's this what you just saw, that uh, it isn't some uh, business venture that I'm now planning on selling a subscription. I do it in the spirit of people help me, I help people. So this will probably very soon be available to everyone. I guess I just want to run around in the new car a little bit before I share it with everybody else. But I really look forward because Argentina is going to be my next speaking event, and I don't get out of the house that often. So the thought of going to a place that I have never been before, and without your gracious invitation, I probably never would have made it to Argentina. Uh, I'm really excited about the opportunity to present to them what the new frontier of technical analysis most likely will look like.
You know, I'm so glad you mentioned it. So it's like I wanted to get your thoughts on this now since you brought it up and like my thoughts went through my head. Um, so these tools, the opportunity, because like I got this big computer over here, and this is possible. Like I'm running so many different things at once, and it's all available to a regular person, like regular people like us. Um, in the past, let's say early 2000s and before that, all the tools were like for institutions or for like the professionals on Wall Street and stuff. Now we can the playing field is kind of leveled. We have with the coding and programming. I don't know how to do that, but I have friends that know how to do it. Just like you have some people that know that stuff more than you, and they bring it to your attention, and we can work together to create tools, even for bring the tools even, like to be usable on a daily basis that improve trading and make us money. Now, so what a time to be alive, So like so we
Amen to that.
what a for so for trading, this is kind of a new frontier. So like it's only like traders like Tom, when you started trading on your own, like retail, like the way you are now, how many years has it been? Like when did that start? I think you were like one of the first to be like that, right?
Yeah, so sort of very brief overview of my career. I started, I worked for JP Morgan Chase, it was called at the time. It was called Chase Manhattan Bank, and and then it was called JP Morgan Chase. And I was there from 96, 97 until December 1999. But it wasn't a trading job. I just want to make sure that people understand that, because I read in certain places that Tom Hougaard worked on the trading floor at JP Morgan. No, I did not. I most certainly did not. Then I worked for myself for 18 months, but I quickly burnt through my money and I had to find a job. But then I was very fortunate, or I worked very very hard at getting a job at a trading floor, and I was successful in securing that. So I worked on a trading floor from May 2001 until
Oh,
I was made redundant in 2009. So that's, it's not 10 years. It's somewhere between 8 and 9 years. And and that's where the foundation for my belief system about human behavior was laid, because of the things that I witnessed. And from then onwards, I decided I did not want to go back and draw a salary. I wanted to make my own salary. And so I guess I've been doing that since February 2009
Yeah, that seems about
until today.
yeah, so the tools have just been getting better and better and better. So yeah, like around that time it was is what I was thinking, like 2010, because my mentors that I first learned from started around 2010. So yeah, so around that time is when retail trading got more like doable. Like you had actual tools and live data and your level two and all this stuff for trading. So
Yeah,
it's a new frontier. So if it's only 25 years old, pretty much 35 years old, let's say if you take it down to 2000 when retail trading, people could just get a computer and use the internet. So it's
yeah.
still 35 years is nothing. So it's like it's
25 years. 25 years.
25 years. Yeah. So it's not that much
Yes.
time. So we're in a new
No.
frontier. This is still new. So
Yes, it is. And I firmly believe, and maybe that's my, I have a belief system that also, it's not centers around God, but it centers around the source. I've never spoken about it before. Maybe I shouldn't talk about it in sort of you're completely unprepared, but I have a belief system which is very much centered around that I come from somewhere and I'm going back there. I call it the source, and it helps me identify where I am in the system. And I feel very strongly that I can achieve whatever I want to achieve financially and spiritually and psychologically as a human being and a trader. But there's a price that I have to pay, and that is that I have to share what it is that I find. And I do that. And that's why I don't run seminars. I don't sell courses because I think they would bore me to run the same course week after week after week. I like writing. I like expressing myself. Um, and I firmly believe that when we come to 2050, and hopefully I'll still be alive to witness it, we won't recognize the trading industry as it is today. It it will, I think, will become a far more respectable profession. I think that there will most likely be university courses that will spring up that is geared towards educating people technically and psychologically into a career. And I think more and more companies will provide opportunities for people who want to trade for funding. You're seeing it already now, the what we call the funded trading programs. You know, it was to begin with littered with scammers that just took people's fees and then spat them out. But it is now a I wouldn't say it's a legitimate industry, legitimate enough, but I think the terms by which they conduct these tests under are highly skewed against the people taking the tests. You know, you're talking about the failure industry in general in trading industry is about 80%, but in the funded industry, the failure rate is north of 98%. That's saying something. And you may say, how do I got that data? Because I got inside information and I got those resources or sources very, very carefully. But I know what's going on behind closed doors. And we're talking about engineered pass rates. We're talking about that fundamentally it's in the interest of the people selling the challenges that people don't pass the challenges. Now, I don't think brokers are like that. Actually, brokers want their clients to succeed. And you may say, why? Well, because someone who's successful is just going to carry on trading and trading and trading. But there's going to be an enormous uh, revolution and evolution in our trading industry. Man, I think someone like me, when that happens, well, I'll probably be 80 years old. So I hope, I hope that if I, keep taking my chlorella and my spirulina and I eat a healthy diet, I'll be around to see it. But I think it'll be unrecognizable to what it is now. And if I was somebody who's out there, I I don't think there's ever been a better time to engage in trading than now.
That is an excellent point, Tom. I agree with you 100% with everything you just said. It brought me to think. I I graduated from University of Florida many years ago, and they have invited me for like 3 or 4 lectures of trading to the architecture school, and I talk about the mindset, the
There you go.
everything. And it's like this is unheard of. When I was going to school, no, there was no trader coming in there giving a lecture. So now, like, I'm giving a lecture to a legitimate institution, a public university, a high-ranking public university, and and then I see there's some hedge funds recruiting students in the architecture school, even in business school, to be traders, like professional, like trade. So it's like it's really, I think ever since the pandemic, it's really sped it up. You know, we had the Robinhood people start, so that's how they get started, and then they start to get, they start to take it serious. Some people, like I came from that era too, so. But yeah, so I think in the future it's going to be legitimized. It's not going to be taboo. I know when I first started trading, it was a taboo subject. Oh, you're a trader. Yeah, okay, you probably have a gambling problem or something. It's weird, you know. Now
Yeah,
it's
I've been through that one as well.
yeah.
Oh, you're such a gambler.
Yeah, but now it's getting the stigma is going away. But yeah, absolutely. Everything you said about the funded thing, I agree with you 100%. The brokers, a legitimate, they have your back. They want you to succeed. They partner with you to succeed. But the other one is rooting against you to fail. They're betting on you to fail. They've structured a whole system for you to on the likelihood of you failing.
Yeah,
So but eventually I think the good always lasts. Like we'll see the longevity of that, like
yeah,
when something is a business is done incorrectly, they usually fade away. The good business is what it has longevity. So I think the idea of people trading is a good thing, and people getting more educated and getting into it and legitimizing trading is a good thing, and that's going to be here. It's going to keep growing. Now these players that bet against their clients, and I think eventually that'll fade off. That's not a sustainable business model. To bet against your own clients, or like to engineer a way to profit off the failure of your clients. I don't think that's a sustainable business model. But for now, yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people get lured into it. But I think the good news is that like people are really loving trading and want to get into it. All types of people. We see them at the conference from all walks of life. So it's really inspiring to see that
yes, it
enthusiasm.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And it's intoxicating and it is inspiring even someone who's a seasoned veteran in trading can almost get a rejuvenation from going like the event in Los Angeles. It rejuvenated me and you come away with ideas mostly from the questions that people have asked you. It's the questions that I come for. My talk, blah, blah, blah. But I love the when people ask me questions on stage when I'm on stage and after the fact. The shame is actually that's the frustrating bit. And if you're watching and you're gonna be there, it's really frustrating that somebody asks you a really good question, but they don't do it when you're on stage. They sort of corner you and then they ask you the question. And I'm thinking, why didn't you ask me when everybody else could have heard that brilliant question? Because they would have benefited from the answer. So if you are watching and you intend to come to Buenos Aires, make sure that you ask that bloody question in the audience, not after.
Absolutely. And to wrap it up, okay, so Tom, we're gonna have the March 23rd, the Buenos Aires trading conference. It's gonna be at the Palacio Alvear. Palacio Alvear is a famous palace. So Argentina has all these like really pristine, beautiful palaces from the 1920s when it was like they were like the Paris of the
They
West.
were the
So
heydays of the
yeah,
Argentinian economy.
it was amazing. So they
Yeah.
still have it all preserved, all the architecture. So we're having it in the palace. Yeah, we have a VIP dinner afterwards at a steakhouse at Messi. Lionel Messi, his favorite steakhouse there. But yeah, it's if you're in the Friendly Bear community, hit me up. I'm gonna be there a few days before, and we can do some things. So
As,
um,
as so as so will I. So
yeah.
count me in. We're gonna go to a vegan restaurant as well.
Okay, yeah, so it's gonna be all vegan restaurant, food for everybody. So yeah, it's gonna be an amazing time, and tickets are at friendlybearconference.com. I will have it in the show notes. Grab your ticket as soon as you can. And Tom, can't wait to see you down there. It's we
Likewise.
from LA to all the way down there, it's
That's
all
amazing.
around the worldwide. So
Yeah.
yes, Tom, can't wait to have you with us. But yeah,
Thanks a lot.
yeah, and it's good to see you again. I will see you in Argentina, Tom.
I will look forward to it. Thank you so much, and thank you to anybody who sat through this long diatribe of trading revolution. Hope to see you soon.
I'll see you. Bye, Tom.
Bye bye.